more than a third of tourists saying they're changing their travel plans because of the threat of terror attacks. Just to kick off, really, I mean, these are unpredictable events. The world is a big place. So, is changing your plans, do you think, a reasonable response?
I think it's an understandable response that people want to go to places on holiday that they feel comfortable in, probably that they've been before, and that they feel are safe. So we're seeing very much that people are moving to those countries that we've been going to for decades and decades. So Greece and Spain, Italy, Portugal, etc. All countries that are all within the EU. We've got close working relationships with. They're not too far away, and equally places that we've probably all been to 2 or 3 times before.
So that idea of returning to locations that mentally we think of as safe and reliable.
Exactly, yeah, very much so. Somewhere where we feel that we'll be comfortable, we'll be safe, we'll be looked after. And if anything does happen, then we're confident and comfortable with the authorities and the way that they work with our government. So to feel that we'll be looked after afterwards.
And yet, the classic tourist destination of France, it has seen attacks in recent years. It's still in a state of emergency. Presumably, they're suffering at the moment in terms of the tourism industry.
France is, yeah, I mean, it's very different markets, just like from if you were to look from the UK. So the London market is very isolated and in isolation compared to the rest of the country. And it's very similar as far as France is concerned. So Paris is, despite the problems that it's had, is actually relatively resilient. It has seen a drop, but it is still relatively resilient considering.
You mentioned the UK there in London particularly. Have we seen a reciprocal drop in terms of tourists visiting us because of events in the news?
We haven't, to be honest. There were predictions and projections that potentially it could have an impact of up to 30%, and that was based on what's happened in other countries. But I think we've been lucky in the sense of, due to Brexit and the weak pound, it means that it's very cheap for people to come over to London. Which has made it very advantageous. And then alongside that, obviously, London is one of those kind of jewel in the crown destinations as far as the world is concerned. So London up there with, say, New York and Paris to a degree, are the places where everyone wants to go to. And even if they've been there before, there's loads of activities and things that they probably didn't get to do the other times that they've been. So a slight improvement in exchange rate for people to come over has has really helped to stabilise the numbers. And if you look since post Olympics, we were around 31 million people coming over to the UK during the Olympics during 2012, whereas for this year there's projected to be 37 million. So the numbers have really ramped up.
Sure, and as you say, I mean, these events, they don't happen in isolation. There's so much else going on. The different factors, hard to see sometimes, which events have which effect. Given that the effect may not have been as big as was anticipated, are you seeing the travel industry actually building in contingency plans, perhaps changing their pricing, to deal with what may be on the horizon?
Yeah, the travel industry has very comprehensive contingency plan. So you only have to look at what it's had to deal with over the last couple of years. So the number of people and flights and capacity that will have been going into places like Sharm el Sheikh in Egypt, into Tunisia, into Turkey, that has effectively all been switched to those safer destinations of Greece, Spain, Italy and Portugal. And the infrastructure in resort, should anything happen, is very comprehensive. All of the travel companies work very closely with the government. But we're not seeing it having any impact at all on the business that takes place. So at World Travel Market, we see nearly £3 billion worth of business take place every year. And that's in effect the packages, if you like, the holidays that we all go on. But all that's happened is, some destinations are benefiting over others.
Of course, for British tourists, we are going to be seeing more expensive holidays in terms of our, the travel money that we take to spend, just because the pound is that bit weaker. Are there going to be other aspects that are going to be more expensive over the next couple of years, do you think?
Oh, without question, the weak pound, if you like, because just like when we change up our money and then we need to purchase stuff when we're in resort, it's no different for the travel companies. They have to purchase hotel beds, they need to purchase ground handling, etc. So they're finding that it's more expensive for them when it comes to their purchasing. So without question, this year we will find that our holidays are more expensive than they've been in previous years.
That's something to look forward to then. Finally, Paul, before I let you go, just returning to that central topic of the effect that terror attacks in the news can have on our holiday plans. I did notice that more than half of the tourists in your survey saying there wasn't enough information at their fingertips on which locations were risky and what to look out for. I mean, do you agree with that?
I think the information is there, but probably the travel companies and the government working together probably haven't done a good enough job to relay that. But to be fair to the industry and the government, they are definitely getting a lot better at that. So the place to go is the Foreign and Commonwealth Office website. There you'll find all the information as far as terrorism or the threat of terrorism, as well as places to go in resort, places not to go, maybe places to avoid at night. If there are issues with pickpocketing or locals targeting tourists, all the type of information that you'd want to know. So I would advise anyone who's looking to go on holiday to check that website out first. And then again, to be fair to the travel industry, they are now doing a much better job at linking directly from their own websites and from their own shops, etc., to make sure that they link directly into the Foreign and Commonwealth Office to make it easier for the traveller to actually have access to this information.
Paul, thank you very much for your time this morning. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you.